Hello everyone and welcome back to Austin Talks, where today we are covering another evolution video, but I think this will appeal to many people because it is one of those things that everyone loves. Now today we are covering the evolution of Star Wars. Obviously we've covered DC and Marvel, and they've all got like the things with Star Wars. It's really interesting, and not only because of its like huge fan base like Marvel and DC. It's just got a really rich and random universe, which I think is really something that needs to be shown. But how did it come to be? Which is what we're covering today. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. Now, the first thing was the birth of Star Wars, and because in the late 1970s, Star Wars was born, and no one at the time knew that the franchise would be what it is today, because it is one of those typical movies that constantly get people's attention. But that popularity ended up becoming a very long-lived current franchise that is still going on today. And there's these typical movies have been shaped into series, which we'll get onto a bit later, but it is still a very long-lived and valued franchise. Now, at the time, it was just known as Star Wars. It was actually not known as A New Hope like we do today. But it was funny to think that at the time people thought it was just another regular movie that was sci-fi and out of this world, that people thought it was just another thing that was at cinema. But it was, and now my dad's an incredible fan, and he actually agrees with the fact that it's come a long way in such a decent amount of time. Even if you say in a short amount of time, that's a bit of a stretch, because it's been going on for 70 years. No, coming up to 50 years. So yeah, it has had a very, very big fan base and extension from that, and I think that's and I think that's something that needs to be said. We've got a day in the year that is dedicated to Star Wars, being May the 4th, and I think that's just it's the influence that it has. But the birth of the Star Wars ended up becoming the original the original trilogy. So as I said, we have The New Hope, and then was continued by Empire Strikes Back. Now, as I said, the original movie was released in the late 70s, 1977 to be exact. But this was then continued 3 years later with the release of Empire Strikes Back. The best out of that trilogy, to be fair. Now, this is a really good introduction, and it actually brought the movie entertainment industry to a whole new level, an extremely whole new level, and a lot of movies really couldn't compete with this because it was very much established, and its first fan base was incredible, and it's all it did was exceed at the time. Now, it changed when they stopped, but this didn't actually stop for long, because the Return of the Jedi came out another 3 years later after the Empire Strikes Back, in 1999, and the reviews at the time were actually amazing. And to be fair, they are still the same. People cherish these movies because they're really original, and it's crazy to think about. Someone came up with this movie, thought it would just be regular Star Wars. Now we look at it. We've got extension anthologies. It's just incredible, and they have just gotten better. The franchise, not the movies. We'll get onto that in a bit. The prequel trilogy, which I'll soon get onto, was good. Don't get me wrong, but a very big but there. The sequel trilogy is just a joke, but they have gotten better in the sense of telling a story with in between gaps, which again I will get onto later. This is one thing I wanted to talk about, because I indulge a lot in the Star Wars novelization, and it was only years after the great success of the first trilogy with that novelization actually started to take a hit. And novelization, or novels, was just used to recap the storylines that were already cinematically shown. So there would be a repeat, written version of Return of the Jedi, and these recap the storylines that were already cinematically shown. But then it started to branch out when they established of the the establishment of the prequel trilogies were made, and these started to get a bit bigger and like more popular, and like a lot of them had to have more, what's the word, context, which is why we got like the Old Republic, which was probably the most popular, but then the Lost Tribe of the Sith. I mean, they started just before the establishment of the prequel trilogy, but they started to take a hit right after that. They started to pummel through popularity, and they would give such good context. It was mainly after Phantom Menace, to be fair, but then it just exceeded to when Revenge of the Sith was made. So, and I think novelization is actually a really good source because it can give you slightly different perspective, which is where the fine line is drawn between movies and books, which is something that you really don't see nowadays. I mean, you get still novelization, but it's mostly in comics. Now they are, as I said, they are still used today, but we do have comics which are basically just like obviously picture books with Star Wars. As they're not common with Star Wars, but they are very good use as well. But the movies and series may just have a bit of a handle over this. The movies came first. Now, as I say, it's the same with Harry Potter. The books are better because they came first. In this sense, the movie did come first, and they did make a breakthrough like cinematic like ideology. So I do think that had a bit of an edge over novelization. Now, the prequel trilogy, when the Star Wars original trilogy ended, the popularity and viewership were looked further, and this led to a new development in the franchise, and it was a prequel set of movies. Now, this prequel trilogy started with the Phantom Menaces because it gave context to a character who many people wished had never died so soon, and that was Obi-Wan Kenobi. But not only that, the Chosen One, being Darth Vader, who obviously died at the end of Return of the Jedi, but he never had the great character arc that he did in the prequel. I'm sorry, he had a better character arc in that. But this did progress with the storyline, but this also was the best because Revenge of the Sith was like the best Star Wars movie. It is. There's no going back. Revenge of the Sith is the best. Anakin, like, there's a big time jump between Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, but I do think the in-between would be a good thing to manage. I mean, you could say, and people say that the Clone Wars isn't. Timeline-wise, no, it is not. It is after Attack of the Clones, slightly during when the Clone Wars is. I think a bit of context between maybe like I would say Obi-Wan, but we've obviously had that series. What happened in between those times? I think that's because there's a big gap there that was missing, and I think that actually may be the High Republic era, which I'll get onto in a bit. But the prequel trilogy was a great addition to that is for sure. Around the same time of Attack of the Clone, actually no, think of it. No, it was actually the beginning of Revenge of the Sith of when that released. Star Wars video games took a very big. They had a very big impact on fanship from Star Wars because the time of release was actually a really perfect timing. Frankly, like honestly, as much as they are good games, that came out of luck. That they released them at a way too perfect time for them to have the same popularity. But Star Wars video games are probably the best source of interactive entertainment, other than toys and action figures. But nowadays, like with the graphics and all that, it's like you're watching movies, but you're playing as the main character. It is amazing. And the graphics do change the quality of this game. But in all fairness, this does apply. This does also apply to others as well. And the best Star Wars game or collection of games is Battlefront 2 to be exact. But obviously that would change if I were able to play any of the other games like Jedi Survivor, but I do not have a PS5, do I? Or a lot of money. So, yeah, so fun. But obviously the old games, I used to play the Star Wars mobile games, I used to play the Lego games, they were super fun, and I also used to play the Old Republic games on the mobile. They are good. I think they probably should have more like just a bit more context. At least those games. The Lego games are basically just the movies recapped, and so same with Battlefront. Depends on what storyline you're talking. Battlefront 2, both variants. But Battlefront 2 on the PS3 was sick. I loved it. I used to play that, and I've missed those memories of playing that. But Battlefront 2 was one of like the new one with Kylo Ren and all that. All of that is like with a new storyline. It has a good storyline as well. Same with the original Battlefront New Edition. So yeah, but if only I were able to play these games, I could have a more judged approach to that. In 2012, Disney took over. Easy as that. Disney took over Lucasfilm, the Lucasfilm franchise, but this was actually for the better. What are we saying? Do you think it was for the better? What are we saying? Now, bearing in mind when I say this, because it was only 3 years before the development of the new trilogy, and based on I take business studies, and one of the things you learn is how other companies take over and manage other projects. So in this context, and from business studies knowledge, Disney would have had a say in how it was going to be orchestrated. In fact, a very big say, and they would have had something to do with how this trilogy turned out. Now, Disney does also give us Disney shows. I was gonna say I'm not happy about that. I'm trying to say the opposite of that. I am not complaining about the Disney shows. That's the phrase I'm looking for. And Disney did broaden out for the market for toys and advertisements. Their marketing did go up exponentially when Disney made an impact. I do think they had a good idea of marketing and media entertainment. They had a great impact on that end. But theatrical media entertainment was where they flipped it at, basically all of their work backfired. But I would say Disney did good, and this was where they probably should have backed off. I do think theatrical media entertainment is where they should have backed off. Honestly, I don't think a new trilogy was needed. I know a lot of people would disagree with that, but I don't think it was needed. But yeah, that is just my opinion, and I do think Disney's takeover was actually suitable for the time. But yeah, that's just me. The sequel trilogy was, as I've just said, it was, yeah. Now, after 10 years, there was a very new set of Star Wars movies that were added to the roster, and this concluded the new trilogy, or so we thought. And I will say that, I'll get on to that phrase a little bit later. Now, to some extent, it gave context to what happened after the Empire's demise and how it was built back up into the First Order as we know it today. But it was better when anthology series and movies did that, and I think that's one of the things that I've really enjoyed about it. Now, the last movie of this new trilogy shaped the context that was built upon and just basically flipped it on its head. Rise of Skywalker, I was so excited to see it, and I was like, I want to go and see it. I want to go and see it here. So I knew what cinema I wanted to watch it in. I know what specific seat I wanted. I was really OCD about seeing this movie. Boy, was I disappointed. And the last movie, as I said, was basically flipped on its head. And Force Awakens, pretty decent, a pretty new establishment. Last Jedi, we really don't talk about that. The planet that bleeds was like the worst planet. I mean, I had really good like animals, but then Rise of Skywalker, oh boy, which is probably why people didn't enjoy didn't enjoy it. And friendship dynamics were just really so damn confusing, like Rey and Kylo. Oh, we're friends, and now we're not friends, and now we're friends again, now we're not friends, and now we are together, yet you're dead. So yeah, that was the most merry-go-round relationship I've ever seen. And the easiest way to put it is that it should have just been kept as is. I think the ending, anthology movies, which I'll get onto in a little bit, is what should have kept this going. I don't think a sequel trilogy would have been good. You could have made The Force Awakens into a anthology movie, but you did not need a whole new thing for that. You really didn't. Now, Star Wars shows took a very big hit. A very big hit. Now, since the Clone Wars, there have been many series that have emerged from the Star Wars franchise. There is no denying that. There have been Ahsoka, Andor, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and if there was more on the screen, like The Bad Batch, Clone Wars, Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett. I probably could be here for hours. And now many of them are still going on today, and each of them played a role in the development of Star Wars series. And this only took, I will say, Disney played a great part in this, because this was only when Disney took over. And nowadays they are being used as anthology pieces that click together like a puzzle. That's why I like anthology movies. And this helps understand continuity errors, if there are any, and there are many, and a lot of them don't disappoint. And I mean, there are many movies, and there are some sort of continuity errors, but they're quite quickly fixed. But what is better, the movies or the series? I want to know that. Comment below if you like what you think, if it's the movies or the series, because I personally would say the series. More context, maybe slower rate of context, but remember, a series has more depth than a movie, because a movie only lasts for a specific duration, which is only a specific amount of context, while series can pile that on for a lot of time. It depends on how many series and how many seasons, how many episodes. It really does all depend. Now, as I said, the anthology movies, amazing. Now, anthology movies, when the new trilogy was released, there was another set of movies that were released along with that, with in between periods. So how it would go: Force Awakens 2015, Rogue One 2016, and then The Last Jedi 2017, 2018 Han Solo. That's how it went. It's in between, a 2-year break, but everyone was different. And this provided more context for in between time periods, between Revenge of the Sith and New Hope, which was when Han Solo was, and right before, just moments before the events of A New Hope, which was when Rogue One was. And some of them would affect the arcs of specific characters like Han Solo, and others would portray a whole new storyline, which would give even more context and nuanced context, which was what Rogue One did. Now, and as I said, I was not a fan of Rogue One. It was just so. I mean, to be fair, at the time I didn't appreciate it. I probably need to watch it again, because I didn't appreciate it because I always loved lightsabers. And since then, it has diverted into series because it was easier to make. But nowadays, and they do provide more context than the actual movie. That's for sure. They do provide more context than the original movies, nuanced movies, which. That's normal though. That is very normal. Star Wars Legacy is just amazing, and it has a very big societal impact. And if you are a true fan of Star Wars, you know that Star Wars has had an influence, and Star Wars has made a very big societal impact because of how diverse it is. Like many other sources of media entertainment, which I've already said, like MCU and DC. Now, each character has a different representation, which obviously have a specific impact on each audience or specific fan. And I can say I can relate more to... Which character do I relate more to? Actually, I don't know. I need to think about that. And now, each of them has a flaw, which makes each of the characters more relatable. And while that is good, this is all brought together by the storyline. The storyline is what creates the character arcs. You can't have a good character arc. The thing is, they kind of create each other. A storyline depends on the character's arc, but the character's arc is only made by the storyline. So they kind of complement each other. You either have both or have none of them, because none of them work. And all of this combined is what brought this franchise to what it is. Fun fact. When I first understood what anthology movies were, like Han Solo, I thought it was a collection of everything that Han Solo did, but that was just I didn't get the understanding at that time. But Han Solo, that was a storyline about one specific character arc, but created a whole story revolving around that. So you can't have a character arc like Ahsoka. It does all work hand in hand. Specifically, a lot of the storylines and character arcs are always, and it's what they're combined with that shape it. Now, Last thing, what is the future of Star Wars? The gaming and series seem to be the stuff that is taking over the Star Wars media, but we haven't actually we haven't had many movies in a while. So do you know what the Star Wars decided to do? Right, let's release new set of movies, even though we said a long time ago that we'd not do that anymore. And has been a prequel to. This is practically a prequel to the prequel trilogy, if you get what I mean. And like this also is another anthology movie. Like these are also another set of anthology movies, kind of. But and these movies revolve around. These are anthology movies that are like prequel to the prequel. But we have another anthology movie coming out called that revolves around Rey. Now I'm gonna say this with the utmost sarcasm. Fun. Now, while I'm not a fan of this idea, it unfortunately is just happening, so I'm gonna have to deal with it. I kind of already processed it. But the series, there are other series in store, so let's look on the bright side. We have obviously the Acolyte and Skeleton Crew. I don't think Lando's happening anymore. I just don't. But those are two things that I think were good to look forward to. And this is the future of Star Wars. And I just want to say, Skeleton Crew is supposed to come out this year. I think it's going to be a Book of Boba Fett situation. It's going to come out like at the end and then lead to the next year. So I think that's what's going to happen. And the Acolyte is supposed to come out like spring or fall next year. But all of this is the future of Star Wars. And while there are bad elements, it is still going on, which I think is the one thing that matters. Quality will decline over time. That is a common thing that you'll see. The same thing happened with the DCEU, and you can see it currently with the MCU. So I do think, like, as much as all of them have bad elements, all of them will have their slippery slopes. Everyone will. That is just how a franchise works. Who just doesn't love Star Wars? If you don't like Star Wars, do let me know, because that'll be interesting to see. But yeah, honestly, I love the Star Wars entertainment. But everyone, that'll be the end of today's video. Yeah, I really hope you enjoyed, and I hope you, if you enjoy Star Wars just as much as I do, please let me know, and let me know of your comments about the evolution of the Star Wars entertainment. Now, everyone, if you did enjoy the video, please leave a like and subscribe, and comment what else you would like to see on the channel. But without further ado, I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.